Welcome back, and especially if you're a new subscriber, in this video I will give you 3 stocks to watch and actually an entire sector, namely the Chinese biotech sector, which I think is interesting to watch. But before we go into the video, please, this is not investment advice. I just want to highlight things that I see out there and steer your attention towards it. You need to do your own due diligence, and I've been talking also to some of my Patreon community members who just learned over the last couple of months and years with the highlights around 2020 and 2021, when every stock just kept on going up, that in investing it's more important that you buy over time and you dollar cost average. You don't buy everything in one big chunk. So I think that's an important learning to take away, and especially with such stocks that I'm talking about today, which are super volatile and risky. So be aware of that. Now, we had this recent rally here in KWEB, the China internet names, and lots of people possibly think, well, I have missed out on the rally. Well, you're now just getting a little bit of a pullback here. Let's see how far this will take us. But anyways, if you're looking some of the bigger names, like of course Baidu, Alibaba, they had really a nice run so far, right? So you don't really want to chase. Usually you want to find something which has not been doing well. And I think one interesting place to watch is possibly in the area of biotech. So this one is a company called ZLab. It's, by the way, a company that's also invested by Bailey Gifford. I don't know how well it will do during those current drawdowns. Like today, we've got a risk-off day based on the Treasury news that came out earlier. I made another video on that. But anyways, I just think it's an interesting setup in names like ZLab, IMAP here, as well as BGNE. So all of these are Chinese biotech names, which means they're working on very complex topics such as cancer treatment, CAR-T, so those really new type of technologies and developments. And you need to know that these stocks sometimes heavily depend on some very rapid outcomes. So for example, a new drug or a new methodology getting approved by the FDA or the equivalent in China. If you don't have the insight into this industry, and frankly I don't have it either, it's super difficult to say exactly what this company is doing. So this now is rather purely technical, based on sentiment and looking at which kind of names have been lagging so far. Because if we're, for example, compare KWEB with ZLab, you'll see that actually, so this is kind of the ratio of, which is outperforming against whom, KWEB versus ZLab. And you can see that ZLab has basically reached a low point here, meaning that it has underperformed even the China internet space for quite some time. And so technically, if you just think in probabilities, it's more probable that from now on ZLab is going to outperform KWEB versus the other way around. Of course, it could still fall through this and underperform even more, but the probabilities are just against it, right? And this doesn't necessarily mean that it's going up, because of course now KWEB, especially today, seems to be coming down. So it just could be that ZLab is falling less than KWEB in relation. But still, I think if I would get new exposure right now, I would certainly watch this space, because it's also a very beaten down space. And by the way, please excuse this messy charting here. But this stock also had a drawdown of right now 83%. And so it didn't enjoy a very big run up over the recent past. Let's say that's only a 15% gain, which is nothing. Again, this can be super volatile. However, if you are thinking where to look and opportunities out there other than the big names in the China internet space, and maybe something that could enjoy a quite explosive run up, so it's a risky business, so maybe just have a tiny exposure, like less than 1% or 1%, 2% in your portfolio, then I would look into that just based on those technicals and the sentiment and towards this, because these names are now also entering the earnings season. So starting from next Monday, for example, for ZLab, we'll see whether or not they may get a turnaround during the earnings. As I mentioned before, the news flow can be quite difficult for those names. But anyways, I thought that's interesting just to point some awareness out there. Let me know in the comments whether or not you enjoyed this type of a video, and then see you in my next video.